When you've been married for 50 years, you start to believe you've seen it all. The arguments, the laughter, the hospital nights, the empty kitchen mornings. I thought I understood my wife better than anyone ever could. But last winter proved I didn't know a damn thing. Her name's Margaret. Everyone used to call her Maggie with the golden laugh. The kind of woman who could turn an ordinary grocery line into a conversation about dreams. She was sunshine with wrinkles when she smiled. And she was my whole world. Started small. The quiet dinners. The phone that never left her side. The late walks she said she needed to clear her mind. At first, I didn't suspect anything. You don't when you've shared half a century with someone. You just assume it's age or stress or maybe loneliness catching up. But then one night, I woke up and she wasn't in bed. I went to the living room, and there she was, sitting near the window, phone glowing against her face, smiling. Smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, the moonlight cutting across her face. And I swear to you, my heart whispered, she's in love with someone else. The next morning, she acted normal. Pancakes, coffee. That same soft, good morning, dear. But something inside me broke. I started noticing everything. The perfume she wore that wasn't hers. The way she hummed while making tea. The way her eyes wandered somewhere else even when I was talking. I tried to ask softly at first. You all right, sweetheart? She'd smile and nod. Just tired. And I'd nod back, pretending I believed her. But I didn't, because I could feel it. The warmth between us had turned into something cold and careful. Weeks went by like that. And one evening, when she left her phone on the table, I swear my hand moved before my conscience could stop it. I opened her messages. There it was. Dozens of texts from someone named James. Good night, my soul. I miss our talks. You make me feel alive again. I felt my chest tighten so hard I thought I'd fall. I sat down, staring at the words like they were carved into me. James. Who the hell was James? I didn't confront her right away. Couldn't. Because a part of me was afraid to know the truth. Tell me something, kid. What would you do if the person you loved most started falling for someone else, and you didn't even know when it began? Would you fight for them, or walk away? If you've ever felt that kind of ache, stick around because what happened next changed everything I believed about love. If you've ever been through heartbreak like this, don't forget to stay with me till the end. This story isn't what you think it is. That night, I pretended to sleep while she sat outside again. Around midnight, I heard her whispering, "Good night, James." The sound of my wife saying another man's name, it was like dying without dying. The next morning, I couldn't look at her. She noticed. Are you feeling sick? I forced a smile. Just tired. Funny how lies become the only language two people share when truth starts to hurt. Days turned into weeks, and my curiosity turned into obsession. I followed her once. Quietly, like a fool with a broken heart. She walked down to the park by the lake. She sat on the same bench we used to share years ago. And then, she took out a photo. From where I stood, I could barely see. But the sunlight hit the frame and for a second, I saw it clearly. It was me. A photo of me taken 40 years ago. She stared at it with tears in her eyes, whispering something I couldn't hear. I stepped back, my hands shaking. James wasn't just someone else. He was the ghost of the man I used to be. And that was the moment I realized. She hadn't fallen in love with another man. She had fallen for the memory of me. The young, fearless, loving man I once was, and somehow lost along the way. Funny thing about love, it doesn't always fade because of someone new. Sometimes it fades because we stop being the person they fell in love with. That night, I sat beside her and just watched her breathe. For the first time in years, I didn't feel angry. I felt ashamed, because she wasn't cheating on me. She was mourning me, and that's how it all began. After that night, I couldn't sleep for days. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that photo of my younger self in her hands, the one she called James. For the first time in 50 years, I didn't know whether to feel betrayed or heartbroken that she missed a man who technically was me. I wanted to ask her about it. God knows I wanted to. But how do you start that kind of conversation? Hey honey, Who's James? And why does he look like the man I used to be before life got tired of me? It sounds insane, doesn't it? So I stayed quiet. But quiet doesn't heal. Quiet eats you alive. A few days later, I noticed something strange. Every afternoon around 3, she'd go into the study. We rarely used that room anymore. It was where we kept old memories. Photos, dusty books, and the clock that hadn't worked since 1999. But she'd lock the door and stay in there for hours. I told myself to let it go. But curiosity is a cruel friend when you're lonely. So one day, when she went to visit her sister, I went inside that room. The air smelled like cedar and old paper. Sunlight came through half-closed blinds, making little stripes across the desk. And there it was, a small wooden box. The same one I gave her on our 10th anniversary. I opened it. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to James. Each one neatly folded, written in her soft cursive. My hands trembled as I unfolded the first one. Dear James, today I saw him again. The man who looks like you, but doesn't see me anymore. He's kind, but his eyes are tired. Sometimes I wonder if you're still in there, beneath all that silence. I stopped reading. My chest tightened. I picked another. I miss your laughter. The way you danced in the kitchen when life didn't feel so heavy. You promised we'd always chase sunsets. But now you just watch them fade. Each letter was a love note to a man who was gone. But not dead. It was me, the man she married, the man she believed had disappeared somewhere between mortgage payments and funerals. For a long time I just sat there, surrounded by those letters, realizing I'd spent years blaming her for being distant, when she was just grieving the version of me that used to make her feel alive. I leaned back, rubbing my eyes, whispering, "What happened to you, John?" That was the first time I'd said my own name out loud in a while, like I was talking to someone else. Because honestly, that's how it felt. Tell me something. Have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror and not recognized the person staring back? When did you stop laughing like you used to? When did you stop being you? If that hit home, maybe it's time to remember who you were, before life started stealing pieces of you. If you've ever lost yourself in love, don't go anywhere. What I found next broke me in ways I never thought possible. That night, I waited for her to fall asleep. Then, I took one of the letters and put it back carefully. I wanted to ask her about them the next morning, but when I walked into the kitchen, she was already there, coffee in hand, looking through the window. "Morning," I said. She smiled faintly. "Morning, dear." I studied her face. There was peace there, but also a quiet kind of pain, the kind that never leaves, even when you smile. Finally, I asked, "Maggie, who's James?" Her hands froze around the mug. She looked at me like I just opened a door she'd spent years keeping shut. She didn't answer. She just turned away and said, "He's someone I used to know." I waited for more, but she stayed quiet. So I left it there. But deep down, I knew she was lying. Not because she wanted to hide something, but because she didn't know how to explain it. That evening, she disappeared into the study again. And this time I followed. She didn't notice me at first. She was sitting at the desk, holding one of the letters. Her lips moved softly, whispering, "I miss you, James." My heart shattered, and yet, couldn't hate her, because in that moment, I understood. She wasn't saying goodbye to another man. She was saying goodbye to the version of me that time had taken from her. I stepped inside. She looked up, startled. Tears filled her eyes. "John," she whispered. "I thought you were asleep." I walked closer, slowly, my throat tight. Until I realized I'd been asleep for a very long time. She stared at me, confused. I sat beside her, picked up one of the letters and said, "You don't have to write to him anymore, Maggie. I'm right here." She covered her mouth, and the tears just came. Silent, trembling, years worth of unspoken words finally breaking free. We didn't talk much that night. We just sat there, hand in hand, surrounded by memories we'd both lost somewhere along the way. And for the first time in years, I saw a flicker of that golden laugh in her eyes again. Funny thing, kid. Sometimes love doesn't die when people change. It just waits, quietly, for both hearts to find their way home again. But I wish I could tell you the story ended there, because what I discovered next made me realize Maggie had been hiding one more secret, one that would tear open everything I thought I'd already forgiven. After that night in the study, things between me and Maggie changed. Not all at once, not magically, but slowly, like frost melting off a window after a long winter. She started smiling more. We sat together during breakfast again. She even laughed at one of my bad jokes. First time in years. And me? I tried to become that man again. The man she used to write to, the one who took her dancing in the kitchen, who left little notes in her purse, who actually looked into her eyes when she spoke. But no matter how much I tried, something in her still felt distant, like she'd built a wall inside herself that only James could cross. One afternoon, while she was taking her nap, I went into the study again. Not to pry, but because I wanted to feel closer to her somehow. I looked through the letters again, not reading this time, just touching them, feeling the weight of years between the lines. Then I noticed something new. A photograph, tucked underneath the last letter. It wasn't old or faded like the others. It was recent. I picked it up. It was a picture of a man standing by the pier near our town's lake. He had gray hair, tired eyes, a plaid shirt just like mine. But it wasn't me. At least I didn't think it was, until I looked closer and saw something that made my stomach drop. On his wrist was my father's old watch. The same one I thought I'd lost 30 years ago. I whispered, "What the hell?" and turned the photo over. On the back, in Maggie's handwriting, it said, "James, 2022. He still looks like you did when you loved me most." My hands went cold. So it wasn't just memory. There really was a man out there, someone she'd met, someone who looked like me. I felt the blood rush to my head, the room spinning. Had she been seeing this man? Talking to him? Was he just someone she saw once and couldn't forget? I didn't know, but I had to. That evening, when she woke up, I asked her straight, "Maggie? Who is he?" She froze, her lips parting slightly, her eyes darting to the study door like she knew exactly what I'd found. "I saw the picture," I said softly. "The man at the pier. Tell me who he is." She took a long, shaking breath, then whispered, "I wasn't going to tell you." "Then why keep the picture?" "Because," she said, her voice cracking, "I needed to remember what it felt like when you still saw me. Let me ask you something, kid. Have you ever been in love with someone who's still right beside you, but you feel miles apart? You see their face every day, but it's like looking through glass? If you know that feeling, you'll understand why what she said next nearly broke me in half. If you've ever been afraid of losing someone even while they're still there, stay with me. The next part will show you what love really costs." I sat there, numb, while she continued. "I met him at the farmer's market," she said softly. "He looked just like you, how you were when we first met. The way he smiled, the way he listened. It reminded me of us." Her hands shook as she spoke. "He wasn't you, John, but for a moment I could pretend. Pretend that time hadn't taken us so far apart. That you still looked at me like I was the only person in the world." I swallowed hard. "Did you love him?" She looked down. "No, I loved you. I just missed you so much that when I saw him, I thought, maybe I could feel that again. I should have been angry. God knows I had every right to be. But all I felt was this deep, hollow ache. Not jealousy, not rage, just loss. Loss for the years I let drift by without noticing her heart was slipping away. I stood up and walked to the window, watching the sunset burn across the lake. She came beside me and whispered, "I never touched him, John. I swear. I just talked to him sometimes. He didn't even know my name." I turned to her, and tears filled my eyes. "You didn't have to touch him, Maggie. You already gave him what used to be mine." She cried then, really cried. Not the quiet kind. The kind that shakes your soul. I wanted to hold her. I wanted to hate her. I wanted to forgive her. But all I could do was stand there, lost between what was and what would never be again. That night, she slept on the couch. Not because I told her to, but because she couldn't look at me. And I lay awake in our bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering when exactly love turns into something you have to fight for. The next morning, she was gone. Her car wasn't in the driveway. No note, no call, just the quiet hum of an empty house. My chest caved in. I looked everywhere, the park, the church, the pier. Nothing. Finally, I drove to that same pier from the photo. And there she was, sitting on the bench, staring at the water, holding that photograph in her hands. I walked up quietly and sat beside her. She didn't look at me, just said, "I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted to remember what it felt like to be wanted." I took her hand gently. "Then let's start again, Maggie. I may not be that man anymore, but I can learn how to be someone you can still love." She finally looked at me, eyes red, lips trembling. "You really think we can find him again?" I smiled through my tears. "Maybe not him exactly, but maybe we can find us." She leaned her head on my shoulder, and for the first time in months, the silence between us didn't hurt. Felt like healing. But life, kid, life never lets you heal too long before testing your heart again. Because what happened next, just when I thought we were finding our way back, changed everything. Everything. After that day at the pier, things felt lighter. Maggie smiled again. We talked more, cooked together, even danced once. Slow, clumsy, and offbeat, but it was ours. For a little while, I thought maybe the worst was behind us. But you ever notice how life gets quiet right before the storm? That kind of peace never lasts. About a week later, I woke up in the middle of the night and heard her coughing. Deep, painful, the kind that shakes the whole body. I ran to the living room. She was sitting there, pale as moonlight, clutching her chest. "Maggie!" I knelt beside her. "What's wrong?" She tried to smile. "Just a little tired, that's all." But it wasn't just tired. Her skin was cold, her breath shallow. I called the doctor the next morning. He said she'd been skipping her checkups for months. Her heart wasn't strong. Not since the stroke 3 years back. When I asked her why she hadn't told me, she just looked away and whispered, "I didn't want you to worry. You've already carried enough." But there was something else in her eyes. Something she wasn't saying. That night, after she went to bed, I found her little wooden box again. Only this time there were new letters inside, sealed, unmailed, all addressed to me. I opened the first one. "My dear John, if you're reading this, I probably couldn't find the words to tell you in person. There's something I've been keeping from you. James isn't just a memory. He's a reminder of the years I watched you disappear. Not because of age, but because of guilt." I frowned, my heart pounding. "Guilt? What guilt?" I read on. "You stopped laughing after the accident, John. The night our son died on that road, you blamed yourself. You stopped being the man I married because you couldn't forgive yourself." My hands started to shake. I hadn't heard those words in years. Our son. We lost him when he was 26. Drunk driver. I was supposed to pick him up that night, but fell asleep watching the game. I carried that guilt like a shadow for decades. And she knew. She always knew. The next part of the letter read, "James was never another man. He was a name I gave to the version of you I prayed would come back. The one who used to hold me, laugh with me, dream with me. Every time I wrote to James, I was writing to the part of you that died with our boy." I sat there, the letter trembling in my hands. My chest felt heavy, my eyes burning. She never had an affair. She was trying to talk to the piece of me that grief had buried. Grandpa pauses, voice breaking. "Tell me something, kid. Have you ever loved someone so deeply that even when they broke, you tried to build them back with your own hands? Would you stay even if they stopped being who you fell in love with? If you've ever loved through pain instead of walking away, stay with me." Because what she told me next changed the way I saw love forever. I went to her room quietly and sat by the bed. She was awake, staring at the ceiling, the faint light from the lamp brushing across her face. She looked so fragile, like a memory that could fade if I blinked too long. I held the letter up and whispered, "I read them, Maggie." She didn't move for a moment, then slowly turned toward me. Tears gathered in her eyes. "I was going to tell you," she said softly. I just didn't want you to feel like I blamed you. You should have, I said, my voice breaking. You should have screamed, hit me, anything. Maybe then I wouldn't have disappeared. She reached out a trembling hand and touched my cheek. I didn't need to punish you, John. I needed to find you. That's when I broke. 50 years of love, grief, and silence poured out of me like rain. I sobbed like a child, for our son, for her, for the man I used to be. We stayed like that for a long time, her hand in mine, the clock ticking softly in the background. Finally, she whispered, "There's one more thing I have to tell you." I looked up, worried. "What is it?" She smiled weakly. "I saw the doctor last month. He said my heart's failing faster than we thought. I didn't tell you because I wanted these last days to feel like life, not goodbye." My throat tightened. "No, Maggie, don't." She pressed a finger to my lips. "Shoo. Don't cry for me. I got to see you come back before I go. That's more than I ever hoped for." And then she said something I'll never forget. "Promise me one thing, John. When I'm gone, don't spend the rest of your days talking to my ghost. Talk to life again. Promise me you'll live." I nodded, tears running down my face. She smiled, closed her eyes, and whispered, "Good night, my love, good night, James." I didn't correct her, because in that moment, I realized James wasn't someone else anymore. He was me again. It's been 3 years since Maggie left. 3 winters. 3 birthdays I didn't celebrate, and 1 anniversary I almost forgot, until I saw her handwriting again on that old wooden box. She's gone, but somehow, the house still breathes her name. The kettle whistles at 6 a.m. because that's when she used to wake me up. The front porch creaks when I sit down with my coffee, and sometimes, I swear I can hear her laugh echo off the trees. I used to think love ended when the heart stopped beating. But the truth is, love just changes shape. It lingers in old coffee cups, in photographs, in the way sunlight falls on her chair. After she passed, I found one last envelope hidden inside that wooden box. It was different. Sealed with red wax, her name on the front, and 3 words written in that graceful hand I'd recognize anywhere. "For when you're ready." I waited a whole year before opening it. Couldn't bear to. But one quiet morning I finally did. It read, "My dearest John, if you're reading this, then you've lived through the hardest part. I know you're sitting by the window, staring at the world and wondering what's left. Here's my answer, life. There's still life. There's still time to forgive yourself, to laugh, to tell someone new a story, to dance one more time even if your knees ache. And if you ever miss me, don't come to the cemetery. Go to the lake instead, our bench. Sit there and talk. You'll find me in the wind." Her words broke me and healed me, all at once. I went to the lake that very day. It was early spring, the kind she used to love. The water was still, the sun low, the world quiet. I sat on that old wooden bench where she used to stare at my younger photo, and for a while I didn't say a word. Then I whispered, "Hey Maggie." I kept my promise. I'm still living. The wind picked up just then. Call me crazy, but I swear it felt like fingers brushing through my hair. Gentle, familiar. For the first time in a long time, I didn't cry. I just smiled. Grandpa looked straight into the camera. Eyes soft, voice warm but trembling. "You know, kid, I used to think love was about holding on. But I learned it's about letting someone go without losing yourself again. We spend our lives chasing the version of love that once was young, perfect, easy. But real love? It's the one that survives the silence, the mistakes, the aging, and still says, 'I'm here.'" I became James again, not because I turned back time, but because I started living like the man she remembered. I volunteer at the community center now. Teach a few kids how to carve wood, fix old radios. They call me Mr. J. Sometimes I catch myself laughing, really laughing, the kind of laugh Maggie used to love. I go to the lake every Sunday. Bring her flowers. Sit on that bench. Talk like she's still right beside me. Maybe she is. Maybe she isn't. But either way, I'm at peace. Grandpa pauses, his eyes glistening but his lips smiling softly. "Tell me something, kid. When's the last time you told someone you loved them? Really told them without waiting for the perfect moment? Because if I've learned anything, it's this. There's no such thing as the right time. There's only now. So if someone's waiting to hear it, go tell them. Don't let the years steal what your heart still remembers. The sun's setting behind me now, and I can almost see her reflection in that golden light. I whisper like I always do, "Good night, Maggie. I'll see you in the wind." And somehow, the breeze answers back. He gives a small smile, eyes wet but peaceful. That's my story, kid. Not a fairy tale. Not a tragedy either. Just the truth about two people who forgot how to love, then found their way home again, even if home looked a little different at the end. So if you're ever lucky enough to find a love like that, hold it close, forgive fast, and never stop showing up. Because one day all that'll be left are the stories you tell. And this was mine.